The Sun Warrior fleet cut through the darkness of space, a shimmering armada of metal and light stretching across the void. From his command post on the bridge of the Imperial flagship Dominance, Captain Aaron Voss gazed at the holographic display of the Sol system. His eyes, enhanced with Zentium implants that gleamed with a subtle golden hue, traced the orbital paths of the 9 planets revolving around the unremarkable yellow star. "Another primitive system to bring into the fold," he remarked, his voice carrying the distinctive accent of the Imperial core worlds. "Though this one has shown unusual development patterns." Colonel Lyra Kane approached, her uniform bearing the insignia of the 7th Intelligence Division. The crimson and gold of her rank markers caught the light as she moved to stand beside Voss. "The Emperor himself has taken interest in this one, Captain," she said, activating her own console. Their progression from radio signals to rudimentary space travel occurred in less than one of their centuries. The acceleration curve is concerning. Voss raised an eyebrow. In the 42nd millennium, the Galactic Empire had encountered and subjugated thousands of worlds. Some had resisted fiercely. Others had welcomed imperial rule as salvation from their own chaos. But rarely did the Emperor personally monitor a pre-contact assessment. "Our mission parameters?" Voss asked, already suspecting the answer. Kane's expression remained neutral as she transferred the official orders to his neural interface. "Standard initial approach. Offer peaceful integration, technological exchange, and membership in the Empire. If they show appropriate deference and acceptance, initiate Stage 1 uplift protocols." Voss waited for the rest. There was always more. "And if they resist?" he prompted. Kane's eyes met his, unflinching. "Then, we are authorized to initiate the standard conquest cycle. The system has resources the Empire can utilize, and the Emperor believes their accelerated development curve could eventually pose a threat if left unchecked." Voss nodded. It was always the same in the end. Peace if possible, subjugation if necessary. The Empire had not become the dominant force across 27 galaxies by allowing potential threats to mature. "Inform the fleet commanders. We'll establish orbit around their world in 36 hours. Voss turned back to the holographic display, zooming in on the 3rd planet, a blue-green marble suspended in the void. "Let's see how these humans respond to our arrival." Little did he know that the Empire's first encounter with Earth would change everything, not just for humanity, but for the ancient power that had ruled the stars for millennia. The scout vessel Vigilant pushed ahead of the main fleet, its sensors sweeping across Earth's orbital space. Lieutenant Commander Rohal, a member of the 6-armed Kreth species, manipulated the controls with practiced efficiency. "Captain, we're detecting unusual radar signatures from the planet," Rohal reported. His voice transmitted directly to Voss's command center. "They appear to have established a rudimentary planetary defense grid. Primitive by our standards. But there's something odd about the energy patterns." Voss frowned. "Elaborate!" "The technology appears inconsistent. Some aspects suggest early spacefaring capability, while others—" Rohal paused, recalibrating his instruments. "Others suggest awareness of quantum principles we typically don't see until much later in a species development." Colonel Kane, who had been monitoring the transmission, exchanged a glance with Voss. "Perhaps they've had outside assistance." "Possible, but unlikely," Voss replied. "Our long-range scans haven't detected any non-indigenous ships in this sector for at least 300 years. He considered for a moment. "Continue monitoring. Rohal. Report any unusual activities immediately." As the scout ship continued its observations, a message arrived from the Imperial capital, a direct communication from Emperor Maxer IV himself. The holographic image of the Emperor materialized before Voss and Kane, his features regal and severe, framed by the traditional aureate crown that had adorned the heads of 100 emperors before him. "Captain Voss, the Emperor began, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. The Sol system assessment has been prioritized. Their technological advancement rate exceeds predictive models. You are to establish contact immediately and assess their response. Voss bowed his head in acknowledgement. And our approach, your magnificence. Offer them peace first, the Emperor replied, his expression unreadable. Show them the benefits of imperial membership. But if they resist, his eyes narrowed slightly. If they resist, you are authorized to implement the standard conquest cycle without delay. We cannot allow another Axion incident. The reference to the Axion Rebellion, a technologically advanced world that had nearly developed weapons capable of threatening the imperial homeworld before being reduced to ash, was not lost on Voss. It will be done, your magnificence, Voss responded. As the Emperor's image faded, Kane turned to Voss. I've never seen him take such personal interest in a pre-contact assessment. Nor have I, Voss admitted. Whatever intelligence they've gathered about this world has them concerned. He straightened his uniform and issued commands to the fleet. Move us into high Earth orbit. Prepare the diplomatic transmission package. And, he hesitated momentarily, bring our weapon systems to standby status. The Sun Warrior fleet, pride of the Empire and symbol of its indomitable power, began its approach to the Blue Planet. 50 capital ships, each nearly 20 kilometers in length, accompanied by hundreds of smaller vessels, moved with perfect coordination. The formation was designed to impress and intimidate, a silent declaration of the Empire's technological superiority. As they approached Earth's orbit, Voss ordered the transmission of the standard first contact message, a declaration of imperial presence, an offer of peaceful integration, and a subtle reminder of the consequences of resistance. The message was broadcast in over 5,000 galactic languages, along with mathematical sequences designed to be universally understandable. The response came faster than expected. A human face appeared on the main view screen, a woman with stern features and the bearing of authority. She wore a uniform adorned with symbols Voss couldn't interpret, though the meaning was clear enough. Military command. This is Admiral Elena Vale of the Earth Defense Force, she announced, her words translated by the Imperial systems. You have entered sovereign Earth space without authorization. State your intentions immediately. Voss stepped forward, allowing the communication system to capture his image. I am Captain Aaron Voss of the Imperial Sun Warrior Fleet. We come representing the Galactic Empire, which spans 27 galaxies and over 10 million worlds. We offer your people the opportunity to join our civilization, to benefit from our technology, our protection, and our 5 million years of accumulated knowledge. Admiral Vale's expression remained impassive. And if we prefer to remain independent? The directness of the question, asked without fear or deference, caught Voss momentarily off guard. Most pre-spacefaring civilizations reacted with either awe or terror to first contact. Independence is not an option the Empire offers, Voss replied carefully. But integration need not be traumatic. Your world would maintain significant autonomy under imperial governance. Your people would gain access to technologies beyond your current understanding. Disease, poverty, and resource scarcity would become memories within a generation. Vale smiled then, a gesture that contained no warmth. Captain Voss, humanity appreciates your offer. However, we must decline. Earth and the Sol system remain sovereign territory. We request that you withdraw your fleet immediately. Colonel Kane stepped into view beside Voss. Admiral Vale, perhaps you misunderstand the nature of this exchange. This is not a negotiation between equals. The Empire is offering a peaceful transition to avoid unnecessary suffering. Resistance would be regrettable. Vale's smile widened slightly, taking on an almost predatory quality. Colonel, perhaps it is you who misunderstands. We are not afraid of your empire. In fact, she leaned forward slightly. We've been hoping someone would stop by. It gets rather boring being alone in the galaxy. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the Imperial officers staring at a blank screen. Did she just, Kane began. Challenge us? Voss finished. It would appear so. He turned to his tactical officer. Scan their defenses. I want to know what we're dealing with. The officer worked his console for several moments before looking up, confusion evident on his face. Captain, I'm detecting energy signatures consistent with defensive platforms. But they weren't there 5 minutes ago. They're deploying some kind of stealth technology. Voss frowned. How many platforms? Over 300, sir, encircling the planet, and they're powering up weapon systems. Kane moved to Voss's side. They're bluffing. They must be. No pre-FTL civilization could possibly. Her words were cut short as the tactical display erupted with warning indicators. A brilliant beam of energy lanced out from one of Earth's orbital platforms, striking the Imperial scout ship Vigilant. The vessel's shields flared brightly for a moment, before collapsing entirely. A second beam cut through the unprotected hull, splitting the ship in two. Alarms blared across the bridge as officers rushed to battle stations. Impossible, Kane whispered. Their weapons technology shouldn't be capable of penetrating our shields. Voss's expression hardened as he watched the destruction of the Vigilant. 800 Imperial citizens, gone in an instant. It seems humanity has been keeping secrets. Battle formations. Deploy the fleet. As the Imperial ships moved to engage, the tactical display revealed a new development. Thousands of smaller craft rising from Earth's surface and from hidden bases on their moon. They were tiny compared to the Imperial vessels, but they moved with startling speed and coordination. They were prepared for us, Kane realized. This was never going to be a peaceful contact. Voss studied the emerging battle with growing concern. The humans' smaller vessels were proving difficult targets, evading the Empire's targeting systems with erratic flight patterns. Meanwhile, their energy weapons, while not as powerful as Imperial technology, were being deployed with precise coordination, focusing fire on individual Imperial ships to overwhelm their shields. Adapt targeting algorithms, Voss ordered. Deploy fighter squadrons to intercept their smaller craft. As the battle unfolded, Voss found himself both frustrated and, surprisingly, impressed. The humans fought with a ferocity and tactical intelligence he rarely encountered. They seemed to anticipate Imperial maneuvers, countering with unexpected responses. Most civilizations, when faced with the overwhelming might of an Imperial fleet, quickly surrendered or were swiftly crushed. These humans fought like they had been waiting for this moment, like they welcomed it. Colonel Kane approached, her uniform now bearing scorch marks from a minor explosion on the port side of the bridge. Captain, we've lost 3 destroyers and the cruiser Implacable. Our fighters are engaging their small craft, but we're taking losses at an unacceptable rate. Voss's jaw tightened. How? How are they doing this? Dr. Cale Trun from Engineering has a theory, Kane replied. He's analyzed their weapon signatures. They're using a form of directed plasma energy we've only seen in theoretical models. Somehow, they've solved the containment problem that our scientists have struggled with for centuries. Bring him to the bridge, Voss ordered. Minutes later, Dr. Trun arrived, a tall, thin man with the characteristic pale blue skin of the Neurillian people. His eyes, with their horizontal pupils, darted around nervously. Explain, Voss demanded without preamble. Captain, the humans are using what appears to be a hybrid plasma quantum weapon. Trun began. It's elegant, actually. They're creating micro-singularities within plasma streams, which allows them to bypass conventional shield harmonics. It's not as powerful as our main batteries, but it's precisely calibrated to exploit weaknesses in our defensive systems. How could they possibly know the frequencies of Imperial shields? Kane asked, suspicion evident in her voice. Trun shook his head. They don't. Not specifically. Their weapons appear to cycle through frequencies until they find resonance points. It's inefficient but effective when deployed en masse. A massive impact rocked the flagship, sending several officers tumbling to the deck. "Damage report!" Voss called out. "Port shield generators at 40%. Captain," came the response. 3 decks breached in sections 17 through 22. Emergency containment fields holding. Voss made a decision. Signal the Indomitable and the Supremacy. Have them move to flanking positions. We'll concentrate fire on their main orbital platforms, while our fighters keep their small craft occupied. As the battle continued, Voss found himself engaged in a mental duel with whoever was commanding the Earth forces. The human fleet moved with purpose, sacrificing vessels when necessary to protect key defensive positions. It was not the desperate resistance of a civilization facing extinction, but the calculated strategy of experienced warriors. Hours into the engagement, with both sides taking losses, Colonel Kane approached Voss with a proposal. "Captain, I believe we need to strike directly at their command and control," she said, her voice low. "Our analysis suggests their primary coordination center is located in a hardened facility beneath their northern polar ice cap. If we can neutralize it, their defensive network may become uncoordinated." Voss considered the suggestion. It was a sound tactical approach, but would require committing significant resources to a high-risk operation. "Who would lead such a mission?" he asked. Kane stood at attention. "I would, sir. With your permission." Voss studied his longtime friend and colleague. They had served together for over 15 standard years, through numerous campaigns and conflicts. Kane was not only a skilled intelligence officer, but a formidable combatant. "Very well, Colonel. Take the Spectre Squadron and 3 assault carriers. But Kane," he held her gaze, "return safely. That's an order." Kane allowed herself a small smile. "Understood, Captain." As Kane departed to prepare her strike team, Voss returned his attention to the main battle. The 3 Imperial heavy cruisers had formed a triangular formation, concentrating their firepower on Earth's orbital defenses. Slowly, methodically, they were making progress, destroying one platform after another. But the cost was high. The Supremacy had taken significant damage, with fires raging through its lower decks. The Indomitable's main weapon systems were operating at reduced capacity after sustaining hits to its power distribution network. And still, the human vessels swarmed like insects, striking, retreating, then striking again. Their tactics were unlike anything in the Imperial combat manuals, unpredictable, adaptive, sometimes seemingly irrational, until the purpose became clear moments later. Voss found himself wondering about the mind behind these strategies. Who was this Admiral Vale? What had prepared her people for this kind of conflict? His thoughts were interrupted by a priority communication from Kane's assault team. Her image appeared on a secondary display, the interior of her command shuttle visible behind her. "Captain, we've breached the outer defenses of their command center," she reported. "Resistance is heavy, but manageable. These humans fight with unusual enthusiasm." Voss frowned. "Explain." "They're not afraid, Captain," Kane said, a note of disbelief in her voice. "In previous campaigns, when we've faced resistance, there was always fear beneath the defiance. These humans—" She paused, ducking as an explosion rocked her shuttle. "They're actually enjoying this. I heard one of them laughing during an exchange of fire." Before Voss could respond, alarms blared across the Dominance's bridge. "Massive energy surge detected from the planet's surface," the sensor officer called out. "They're powering up something big! Captain!" Voss turned his attention to the tactical display, just as a brilliant beam of energy erupted from Earth's North American continent. The beam struck the Indomitable directly amidships, bypassing its shields entirely. The mighty Imperial cruiser, a vessel that had survived battles across 3 galaxies, broke apart in a catastrophic explosion. "Evasive maneuvers," Voss ordered. "All ships, Break formation and adopt random movement patterns. Even as he issued the command, Voss knew they had underestimated these humans severely. What other surprises did they have waiting? The answer came moments later when Kane's voice, strained and interrupted by static, came through the communication system. "Captain, we've reached Central Chamber. It's not what we—" A tremendous explosion drowned out her words, followed by silence. "Kane!" Voss called out. "Colonel Kane, respond!" There was no answer. The tactical officer turned to Voss, his expression grim. "Sir, we've lost all contact with the assault team. Their transponder signals are gone." Voss felt a cold weight settle in his chest. 800 lives on the Vigilant, over 12,000 on the Indomitable, and now Kane and her assault team. The casualties were mounting at an unprecedented rate for what should have been a routine conquest. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the surface. It's Admiral Vale again." Vale's face appeared on the main screen, looking remarkably composed despite the battle raging around her planet. "Captain Voss," she began, "your assault team fought well. Colonel Kane, in particular, showed remarkable courage. She died as a warrior should, in battle against a worthy opponent." Voss struggled to maintain his composure. "You speak of war and warriors with unusual familiarity, Admiral, for someone whose civilization has never fought an interstellar conflict." Vale smiled that unsettling smile again. "Who said we've never fought such conflicts, Captain? Just because we haven't encountered your empire before doesn't mean we haven't been preparing." "Preparing," Voss repeated. "For what?" "For exactly this moment," Vale replied. "Humanity has always known we weren't alone in the universe. We've been intercepting fragments of transmissions, catching glimpses of passing ships, for centuries. We knew eventually someone would come, someone like your empire. So we prepared, we unified, we built our defenses, and we waited." Voss was stunned. It was unprecedented for a pre-contact civilization to have detected Imperial presence without the Empire's knowledge. "And now," Vale continued, "I believe it's time we met face to face. Captain, I'm transmitting coordinates for a neutral meeting point in orbit around Earth's moon. Come alone, and we can discuss terms to end this conflict." The transmission ended, leaving Voss to consider the invitation. It could be a trap. Likely was a trap. And yet, his instincts told him Vale was sincere in wanting to meet. "Sir," his executive officer protested, "you can't seriously be considering this." Voss turned to him. "On the contrary, Commander, I believe this may be our best opportunity to understand what we're facing." He straightened his uniform. "Prepare my shuttle. The fleet will maintain defensive positions until my return." "And if you don't return, sir?" Voss's expression hardened. "Then you will execute Protocol Omega and call for reinforcements from the nearest Imperial battle group. This system will be quarantined until the arrival of a subjugation fleet." The trip to the coordinates Vale had provided was tense but uneventful. Voss's shuttle, accompanied by 2 fighter escorts until the final approach, made its way to an orbital platform positioned in the shadow of Earth's moon. The structure was clearly of human design, functional rather than aesthetic, with none of the flowing architectural elements preferred by Imperial engineers. As Voss docked his shuttle, he performed a final check of his sidearm, a compact plasma pistol capable of disintegrating a human-sized target, before securing it in its holster. Whatever happened here, he would face it with the dignity expected of an Imperial officer. The airlock cycled open to reveal a plain, utilitarian corridor leading to a conference room. 2 human security officers stood at attention, their weapons holstered but clearly visible. "This way, Captain," one of them said, gesturing down the corridor. Voss followed, noting the efficient design of the station. Every element served a purpose. There was none of the ornamentation or displays of wealth that characterized imperial facilities. These humans were practical, another trait that made them dangerous. The conference room contained a single table with two chairs facing each other. Admiral Vale stood as Voss entered, offering a formal nod, rather than the bow that would be expected when greeting an imperial officer of his rank. "Captain Voss," she said, "thank you for accepting my invitation." Voss remained standing, studying the human commander. She was shorter than him by at least 20 centimeters, but carried herself with unmistakable authority. Her uniform was adorned with symbols of rank and, he presumed, commendations for service. "Admiral Vale," he responded, "you've caused the Empire considerable inconvenience." Vale smiled at that. "Please, have a seat. Would you care for refreshment? We've attempted to synthesize beverages compatible with your physiology." Voss raised an eyebrow at that. They had analyzed his species' biochemistry already? He sat down slowly, declining the offer of a drink with a small gesture. "You killed Colonel Kane," he said without preamble. Vale's expression became serious. "Yes, just as you killed thousands of my people when your cruisers destroyed our orbital platforms. That's what happens in war, Captain. People die." "This wasn't meant to be a war," Voss countered. "The Empire offered you peace." "No," Vale replied firmly. "You offered us subjugation and called it peace. There's a difference." Voss leaned forward slightly. "Why did you request this meeting, Admiral?" "I doubt it was to debate imperial policy." "Straightforward. I appreciate that." Vale activated a holographic display embedded in the table. A three-dimensional image of the solar system appeared, with the positions of both human and imperial forces clearly marked. "I wanted to show you this." Voss studied the display, his tactical mind immediately assessing the situation. What he saw confused him. "Your forces are more numerous than our scans indicated, but you're still outmatched. Why show me this?" Vale manipulated the display, and suddenly hundreds, no, thousands, of new markers appeared throughout the system. Hidden bases on Mars, Jupiter's moons, Saturn's rings, and scattered throughout the asteroid belt. "Because this is the reality, Captain. We've transformed our entire system into a fortress. Every planet, every significant moon, every strategic asteroid has been prepared for this day." Her eyes met his. "If your empire commits to full-scale war against Earth, you will eventually win. But the cost will be unlike anything you've experienced in your subjugation campaigns." Voss kept his expression neutral, but internally, he was reassessing everything about this encounter. The humans had hidden installations throughout their system, undetected by Imperial scouts. Their technology, while not matching the Empire's in raw power, was being deployed with devastating effectiveness. "Why?" he asked finally. "Why prepare so extensively for a threat you couldn't have been certain existed?" Vale's expression changed then, showing something Voss hadn't expected: excitement. "Because humanity has always dreamed of this moment, Captain. First contact. The discovery that we're not alone. And in those dreams, we've imagined countless scenarios, peaceful exchanges of knowledge. Yes, but also invasions, conquests, wars among the stars." She leaned forward. "We've been writing stories about fighting aliens for longer than we've had electricity." Voss frowned. "You're saying you wanted this conflict?" "Not wanted, exactly," Vale clarified. "Prepared for, expected, and yes, on some level, anticipated with a certain eagerness." She smiled again, that unsettling expression that wasn't quite friendly and wasn't quite threatening. "Humanity thrives on challenges, Captain. We define ourselves by the obstacles we overcome. And what greater challenge could there be than defending our world against a galactic empire?" Before Voss could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the station. Vale glanced at a small device on her wrist. "It seems your fleet has decided to resume hostilities," she said. standing. My subordinates detected launches from your remaining cruisers. Voss rose as well, genuinely surprised. I gave no such order. Perhaps your emperor grew impatient, Vale suggested. Regardless, I believe our meeting is concluded. As if to punctuate her words, the station shuddered from a distant impact. Warning lights flashed, and the human security officers moved to flank their admiral. Your shuttle remains undamaged, Captain, Vale said. I suggest you return to your fleet quickly. This station will not be a safe place much longer. Voss hesitated, torn between his duty as an Imperial officer and his growing respect for this unusual adversary. Admiral Vale, the Empire will send reinforcements. Hundreds of ships, possibly thousands. Your system cannot withstand such force. Vale's expression showed no fear. Perhaps not, but we'll make sure the Empire remembers this battle, regardless of the outcome. She offered a formal military salute. Until our next engagement, Captain. Voss returned the gesture, somewhat surprised to find himself doing so. Until then, Admiral. As he hurried back to his shuttle, Voss's mind raced with conflicting thoughts. The humans were clearly more dangerous than any pre-FTL civilization the Empire had encountered before. Their technology, their tactics, their entire approach to conflict was anomalous. And most disturbing of all was their attitude. Where was the fear? Where was the desperate struggle for survival that characterized most resistance to imperial expansion? These humans fought like they had been waiting for this moment, like they welcomed the opportunity to test themselves against a superior force. By the time Voss returned to the Dominance, the battle had intensified. The remaining Imperial cruiser, Supremacy, was engaged with multiple human vessels, its shields flickering under constant attack. "Report!" Voss demanded as he strode onto the bridge. "Sir, 3 minutes after your departure, we detected multiple launches from Earth's surface," his executive officer explained. "High-yield nuclear devices, targeted at our fleet positions. We attempted to intercept, but several detonated close enough to damage our communications array. We believe the humans used the electromagnetic pulse to mask additional deployments." Voss moved to the tactical display. "And who ordered our cruisers to resume the attack?" The officer looked confused. "Sir, the order came from you, or at least from your shuttle's communication system." Realization dawned on Voss. It was a deception. They used our own protocols against us. He quickly assessed the situation. The Imperial fleet was still formidable, but they were now fighting an enemy who understood their tactics and had prepared countermeasures. "New formation," he ordered. "Defensive cluster around the Dominance. Recall all fighters to provide close support. We're withdrawing from Earth orbit." "Withdrawing, sir?" The question came from several officers at once. Voss turned to face his crew. "This is not a defeat. It's a strategic redeployment. We've lost too many ships to continue the current engagement pattern. We'll pull back to the outer system, regroup, and reassess." As the Imperial fleet began its withdrawal, a new transmission came through, not from Admiral Vale this time, but from a male human officer whose insignia identified him as Admiral Marcus Miller. "Captain Voss," Miller began, his expression far less composed than Vale's had been. There was an almost feverish intensity in his eyes. "Leaving so soon? And here I was looking forward to testing our new Helios-class destroyers against your flagship." Voss studied the human officer, noting the barely contained excitement in his manner. This was another example of the strange eagerness these humans showed for combat. "Another time, perhaps, Admiral Miller," Voss replied coolly. "The Empire is not in the habit of wasting resources unnecessarily." Miller laughed, actually laughed at that. "The mighty Empire, running from a primitive civilization? Your Emperor won't be pleased, I imagine." "This isn't retreat, Admiral," Voss countered. "It's patience, a quality your species might benefit from cultivating." Before Miller could respond, The transmission was cut from the Imperial side. Voss had no desire to continue the exchange. "Set course for the gas giant they call Jupiter," he ordered. "We'll use its moon system as a temporary base while we conduct repairs and await instructions from Imperial Command." As the Sun Warrior fleet limped away from Earth, Voss retired to his private quarters to prepare his report to the Emperor. How could he explain what they had encountered? Not just the unexpected technological capabilities, but the unprecedented psychological approach of these humans? He activated his secure terminal and began recording. "Your Magnificence, I regret to inform you that the initial contact with the species known as humans has resulted in significant Imperial casualties. Their technological capabilities, while still inferior to our own, have been deployed with unusual effectiveness. They have transformed their entire solar system into an integrated defense network, suggesting they have been preparing for extraterrestrial contact, specifically hostile contact, for generations. Most concerning, however, is not their technology, but their mentality. These humans do not merely resist Imperial authority. They actively welcome the conflict. They display none of the fear or desperation typically observed in subjugation campaigns. Instead, they exhibit an almost predatory excitement when engaged in battle. Colonel Lyra Kane was lost during an assault on their primary command center, along with her entire strike team. The cruisers Indomitable and Vigilant have been destroyed, with significant damage to the Supremacy and multiple support vessels. I have ordered a tactical withdrawal to the outer solar system to regroup and await reinforcements. It is my assessment that full subjugation of this system will require a dedicated conquest fleet with supporting elements. However, I would be remiss in my duty if I did not offer an alternative recommendation. These humans, despite their primitive status and disturbing enthusiasm for warfare, possess qualities that might make them valuable as Imperial subjects, or even allies, if their aggressive tendencies could be properly channeled. I await your instructions, Your Magnificence, and stand ready to implement whatever course of action you deem appropriate for dealing with humanity." Voss ended the recording and sat back, troubled by his own thoughts. In his 3 decades of service to the Empire, he had never before suggested anything other than complete subjugation for a resistant species. Yet something about these humans, their ingenuity, their tenacity, and yes, even their unsettling eagerness for battle, had impressed him. Would the Emperor see the same potential? Or would he simply dispatch a subjugation fleet to crush Earth beneath the full might of Imperial power? Voss wasn't certain which outcome he preferred, and that uncertainty troubled him most of all. Days passed as the Imperial fleet orbited Jupiter, using the massive gas giant's radiation belts to mask their presence from Earth sensors. Repair crews worked continuously to restore damaged systems, while tactical officers analyzed every aspect of the battle, searching for weaknesses in human defenses. Voss spent hours reviewing the engagement, studying Admiral Vale's tactics, trying to understand the mind of his adversary. The more he observed, the more he recognized the skill behind what had initially seemed like chaotic maneuvers. The humans fought in ways that maximized their strengths and exploited Imperial weaknesses, a sign of careful study and preparation. On the 7th day, the expected response from Emperor Maxer IV arrived. The holographic image of the Emperor materialized in Voss's private briefing room, his expression unreadable as always. "Captain Voss," the Emperor began, "I have reviewed your report on the Earth engagement. The losses you describe are concerning." Voss bowed his head. "Yes, Your Magnificence. The humans proved far more formidable than initial assessments indicated." "So it seems." The Emperor was silent for a moment, his fingers tapping lightly on the arm of his throne. "What is your assessment of their threat level to the Empire as a whole?" Voss considered his words carefully. "At present, minimal. They appear to have no faster-than-light capability, and their technology, while advanced in certain areas, remains broadly inferior to our own. However, their rate of development is unprecedented. If left unchecked, they could potentially reach dangerous levels of advancement within a few centuries. And yet you suggested they might make valuable allies. The Emperor's tone revealed nothing of his thoughts on this unusual recommendation. Yes, Your Magnificence. Their approach to warfare is unique among species we've encountered. They seem to thrive on conflict, to welcome it as a test of their capabilities. Such an attitude, properly directed, could be a significant asset in our ongoing conflicts with the Shard Collective and the Void Hegemony. The Emperor's expression changed slightly, the barest hint of interest flickering across his features. You believe these humans would fight for the Empire, after we attempted to conquer their world? Not for the Empire, Your Magnificence, Voss clarified. But perhaps with the Empire, against common enemies, they would need to maintain their independence, their identity as warriors. For a long moment, the Emperor was silent, and Voss feared he had overstepped. Suggesting alternative approaches to conquest was dangerously close to questioning imperial policy. Finally, the Emperor spoke. The War Council has been monitoring the Void Hegemony's movements along our eastern frontier. Their new Void Phase technology has proven problematic for our defense grids. We need fresh approaches, new tactics. He leaned forward slightly. Very well, Captain Voss. You are authorized to pursue an alliance with these humans, conditional on their acceptance of certain non-negotiable terms. Voss was careful to hide his surprise. What terms, Your Magnificence? They will acknowledge the Emperor's primacy in all interstellar matters beyond their home system. They will provide military support when called upon. They will not develop technologies prohibited by imperial edict without explicit permission. And, here the Emperor's voice hardened, they will submit to the placement of imperial monitoring stations throughout their system to ensure compliance. And if they refuse these terms? The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Then, you will withdraw completely, and I will dispatch Subjugation Fleet Omega to resolve the matter permanently. Voss bowed deeply. I understand, Your Magnificence. I will convey your terms to the Earth leadership. After the Emperor's image faded, Voss remained motionless for several minutes, contemplating what had just transpired. The Emperor, known for his unwavering commitment to imperial expansion, had authorized a diplomatic approach to a species that had openly defied imperial authority. It was unprecedented. But then, everything about this encounter with humanity had been unprecedented. Voss summoned his senior officers to prepare for renewed contact with Earth. This time, rather than an overwhelming show of force, he would approach with a single vessel, the Dominance itself, as a gesture of, not quite trust, but a willingness to engage. Before departing Jupiter orbit, Voss received an unexpected visitor. Dr. Cale Trun requested a private audience, unusual for a technical specialist who typically reported through the chain of command. Captain, Trun began, his horizontal pupils dilating with what Voss recognized as nervousness in his species. I've completed my analysis of the human weapons technology we encountered. And, Voss prompted, curious about what would bring the engineer directly to him. It's remarkable, sir. Their directed plasma quantum weapons operate on principles our scientists theorized centuries ago, but abandoned as impractical. The humans found a solution using what appears to be a completely novel approach to quantum stabilization. Voss raised an eyebrow. Is this merely academic interest, Doctor? Or is there a point to this report? Trun straightened, his nervousness giving way to scientific enthusiasm. The point, Captain, is that this technology could be adapted to solve the containment issues with our own heavy weapon systems. And not just weapons. The same principles could revolutionize our power generation, shield harmonics, even FTL drive efficiency. You're suggesting we could learn from human technology? Voss asked, slightly incredulous. They barely have a presence beyond their own moon. That's just it, sir, Trun insisted. They've developed along a completely different technological path than the Empire. Their solutions to problems are unorthodox, but effective. In some areas, they've actually surpassed us, despite their overall primitive status. Voss considered this information. If Trun was correct, an alliance with humanity could provide the Empire with technological innovations as well as military support. It strengthened the case for diplomacy over conquest. Include your findings in the briefing materials for our next contact with Earth, Voss instructed. And Dr. Trun, he added, as the engineer turned to leave. Good work. Your insight may prove valuable in the coming negotiations. The Dominance broke orbit from Jupiter the following day, transmitting continuous diplomatic identification signals as it approached Earth. Rather than the aggressive formation used in their first approach, the massive flagship moved slowly, deliberately, its weapon systems powered down to minimal levels, though its shields remained at full strength, a precaution Voss insisted upon. As they neared Earth orbit, they were met by a small formation of human vessels, sleek, maneuverable craft that took up escort positions around the Imperial flagship. Voss noted that these ships were of a design they hadn't encountered in the previous battle, suggesting the humans had held some of their military capabilities in reserve. Admiral Vale's face appeared on the main view screen, her expression as composed as ever. Captain Voss, welcome back to Earth orbit. I trust your repairs at Jupiter were productive. Voss allowed a small smile at the confirmation that the humans had indeed tracked their movements. Admiral Vale, thank you for the escort. I come with a proposal from Emperor Maxer IV himself. Vale's eyebrow arched slightly. The Emperor? I'm honored. Perhaps we should discuss this face-to-face, rather than via transmission. Agreed. I extend an invitation to you and your senior officers to come aboard the Dominance. Vale seemed to consider this for a moment. A generous offer, Captain, but I propose a neutral location instead. We've established a diplomatic station in cislunar space for precisely this purpose. Would that be acceptable? Voss nodded. It would. I'll bring a small delegation. The diplomatic station proved to be a more impressive structure than the austere meeting facility Voss had visited previously. Constructed in the Lagrange point between Earth and its moon, the station featured architecture that blended functionality with aesthetic elements Voss recognized from his brief exposure to human culture. Soaring arches, transparent observation domes, and symbolic imagery representing, he presumed, the various nations of Earth. The human delegation awaited them in a large conference chamber. Admiral Vale stood at the center, flanked by Admiral Miller and several other military and civilian officials Voss didn't recognize. Captain Voss, Vale greeted him, extending her hand in what he had learned was a human gesture of formal greeting. Allow me to introduce the Earth Defense Council. Voss took her hand briefly, noting the firm grip, before acknowledging the other humans with a formal imperial bow, a significant courtesy from an imperial officer to representatives of a non-imperial world. Admiral Vale, council members, I bring greetings from Emperor Maxer IV and a proposal for a new relationship between the Galactic Empire and Earth. Miller, whose demeanor remained as intense as in their previous communication, stepped forward. A new relationship? The old one didn't work out so well for your fleet, Captain. Vale shot Miller a warning glance, but Voss merely inclined his head. Indeed. Admiral Miller, the Empire underestimated Earth's defenses and humanity's enthusiasm for warfare, a mistake we do not intend to repeat. One of the civilian council members, an older woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, spoke up. Let's be clear, Captain Voss, are you here to threaten us with greater force or to offer genuine diplomacy? Neither, precisely, Voss replied. I am here to offer an alliance. The statement was met with skeptical expressions and murmured conversations among the human delegation. Vale silenced them with a raised hand. An alliance? Just days ago. Your fleet attempted to subjugate our world. Now you propose partnership? You must understand our skepticism. Captain. Voss gestured to his own small delegation, which included Dr. Trun. With your permission, Dr. Trun has prepared an analysis that may help explain our proposal. At Vale's nod, Trun activated a holographic display in the center of the conference table. Images of both Imperial and human weapon systems appeared, along with technical specifications and comparison data. Council members, Trun began, his scientific enthusiasm evident. Your plasma quantum weapons technology represents a significant innovation, one that the Empire, despite our advanced status, had not fully developed. Similarly, your artificial intelligence battle coordination systems operate on principles distinct from our own computational approaches. The display shifted to show Imperial technology. Conversely, our faster-than-light drive systems, gravitational manipulation technology, and matter-energy conversion capabilities far exceed your current development level. An older human male with military insignia leaned forward. You're suggesting a technological exchange? Our innovations for your established technologies? That is part of the proposal, Voss confirmed. But the Emperor offers more than technology. He offers humanity a unique position within the galactic community. Vale's eyes narrowed slightly. What position would that be, exactly? The Empire spans 27 galaxies and includes over 10 million worlds, Voss explained. Most are fully integrated Imperial territories. A small number maintain semi-autonomous status as protectorates. What we propose for Earth is something different. A military alliance between sovereign powers. Miller scoffed. The Empire acknowledging another power as sovereign? Forgive me if I find that difficult to believe. Voss turned to face the skeptical Admiral. Your disbelief is understandable, Admiral Miller. Such an arrangement is unprecedented in Imperial history. But then, humanity's response to Imperial contact was equally unprecedented. He returned his attention to the full council. The Empire faces threats you are not yet aware of. Hostile powers with technologies and approaches to warfare different from our own. The Shard Collective assimilates entire species into its hive mind. The Void Hegemony uses dimensional manipulation to bypass conventional defenses. Against such enemies, the Empire requires new tactics, new perspectives. And you believe humanity can provide these? Vale asked. Your people fought an Imperial fleet to a standstill using inferior technology, but superior tactical innovation. Voss replied. Yes, Admiral Vale. I believe humanity has much to offer as an ally, rather than a subject. The silver-haired civilian spoke again. What exactly would this alliance entail, Captain? What would the Empire expect from Earth? And what would we receive in return? Voss outlined the Emperor's terms: acknowledgement of Imperial primacy in interstellar affairs, military support when called upon, technology development restrictions, and monitoring stations in the Sol system. In return, Earth would receive Imperial technology, protection from other interstellar threats, and status as a sovereign ally rather than a subject world. The human delegation withdrew to consider the proposal, leaving Voss and his officers waiting in a separate chamber. Hours passed before they were summoned back to the conference room. Admiral Vale stood as they entered. Captain Voss, the Earth Defense Council has reviewed your proposal. We find some of the terms problematic. Voss had expected resistance. Which terms do you take issue with, Admiral? The monitoring stations represent an unacceptable infringement on our sovereignty, Vale replied. And acknowledging the Emperor's primacy in all interstellar matters would effectively make Earth a vassal state, regardless of how you phrase it. Voss maintained a neutral expression, though internally he acknowledged the human's perception was accurate. The Emperor would never accept a truly equal alliance. However, Vale continued, We have a counterproposal. This, Voss had not expected. I'm listening. Earth will agree to a mutual defense pact with the Galactic Empire against the threats you've described. We will participate in joint military operations when our council determines it serves Earth's interests. We will engage in technological exchange with appropriate safeguards on both sides. Miller stepped forward to stand beside Vale. And we propose a different type of monitoring, joint training exercises. Your officers train with ours. Your ships conduct maneuvers alongside our fleet. We learn from each other, face to face, rather than through remote surveillance. Voss considered the counterproposal carefully. It didn't meet all the Emperor's requirements, but it offered a path forward that might be acceptable with proper framing. There is one more element to our proposal, Vale added. A demonstration of good faith on both sides. What kind of demonstration? Voss asked cautiously. A joint operation, Vale replied. Your intelligence suggests the Void hegemony is encroaching on Imperial territory. Our analysts, reviewing the data you've shared, believe their Void phase technology has weaknesses that could be exploited by combining our approach to quantum manipulation with your gravitational control systems. Voss was genuinely surprised. The humans had analyzed the limited data on the Void hegemony and already developed potential countermeasures. It was further evidence of their tactical creativity. You're proposing that Earth forces join an Imperial operation against the hegemony, as a test of our alliance? Vale nodded. Precisely. We commit a battle group to fight alongside your ships. If the cooperation proves fruitful, we formalize the alliance under the terms we've outlined. If not, she shrugged. Both sides reconsider their positions. It was clever, Voss had to admit. The humans were offering the Empire immediate military assistance against a genuine threat, while positioning the action as a trial period for their version of an alliance. I will need to consult with the Emperor, Voss said finally. This deviates significantly from his initial terms. Of course, Vale agreed. We'll await his response. The return to the dominance was silent. Voss deep in thought about how to present the humans' counterproposal to the Emperor. He suspected Maxer IV would reject it outright. The Empire did not negotiate with pre-FTL civilizations as equals. And yet, these humans had proven themselves anything but typical. Their technological innovation, their tactical acumen, and their sheer enthusiasm for warfare made them potentially valuable allies against the growing threats on the Empire's frontiers. In his private quarters, Voss prepared his report to the Emperor, choosing his words with extreme care. Your Magnificence, the humans have responded to your generous offer with a counterproposal. While they reject certain specific terms regarding monitoring stations and formal acknowledgement of imperial primacy, they offer something potentially more valuable: immediate military cooperation against the Void hegemony. Their scientists have analyzed the limited data we provided on hegemony Void phase technology and believe they can develop effective countermeasures by combining their quantum manipulation techniques with our gravitational control systems. They propose a joint operation as a demonstration of good faith and a test of our potential alliance. In my assessment, while this arrangement falls short of the complete submission typically expected from non-imperial worlds, it offers strategic advantages that may outweigh these concessions. The humans have demonstrated remarkable tactical creativity and technological innovation that could prove decisive in our ongoing conflicts. Furthermore, I believe this approach may ultimately lead to fuller integration with the Empire over time, as humans experience the benefits of imperial civilization firsthand through joint operations and technological exchange. I await your wisdom and decision on this matter, your Magnificence, and stand ready to implement whatever course you deem appropriate. Voss sent the transmission, encrypted with the highest imperial security protocols, and waited. He expected a lengthy deliberation by the Imperial War Council, perhaps days of discussion before a response. To his surprise, the Emperor's reply came within hours, a sign that the matter had been given highest priority. The holographic image of Emperor Maxer IV appeared in Voss's quarters, his expression thoughtful rather than stern. "Captain Voss," the Emperor began, "your assessment of the human counterproposal is noted. The War Council has reviewed the tactical data from your engagement with Earth forces, as well as the technical analysis provided by Dr. Trun." The Emperor paused, and Voss waited, careful to maintain a neutral expression despite his curiosity. "The Void hegemony represents a growing threat to imperial stability," the Emperor continued. "Their recent advances in Void phase technology have resulted in concerning incursions along our eastern frontier. If the humans truly possess insights that could counter this technology, their cooperation would be valuable." Voss felt a surge of hope. Was the Emperor actually considering accepting the humans' terms? "You are authorized to proceed with a modified agreement," the Emperor declared. "The joint operation against the hegemony will serve as both a test of human capabilities and a demonstration of imperial power. You will command the combined fleet, with human officers serving in advisory and support roles." This was not quite what the humans had proposed. Voss knew. They had envisioned a more equal partnership in the operation. "If the operation proves successful," the Emperor continued, "we will formalize an alliance along the lines they have proposed, with one non-negotiable addition. Earth must acknowledge formal membership in the imperial sphere of influence, even if they maintain practical autonomy in their internal affairs." It was a compromise, less than full submission, more than complete independence. Whether the humans would accept it remained to be seen. "You have shown unexpected wisdom in this matter, Captain Voss," the Emperor concluded. "Perhaps these humans have influenced you with their unusual perspectives. Ensure that influence serves the Empire's interests." The implied warning was clear. Voss bowed deeply. "Always, Your Magnificence. The Empire's glory is my only concern." After the Emperor's image faded, Voss allowed himself a moment of reflection. He had never imagined himself as a diplomat, negotiating with a species that had inflicted significant losses on imperial forces. And yet, here he was, crafting an unprecedented alliance that could reshape the Empire's approach to expansion. The following day, Voss returned to the diplomatic station to present the Emperor's modified terms to the Earth Defense Council. The humans listened attentively as he outlined the proposal for a joint operation against the Void hegemony, with Imperial command but human tactical input. Admiral Vale exchanged glances with her colleagues before responding. "The command structure you propose is not what we had in mind. Captain, Earth forces must maintain operational autonomy within the joint fleet. The Emperor has already made a significant concession by accepting most of your counterproposal." "Admiral," Voss replied, "Imperial forces have never served alongside non-Imperial units as equals. This is uncharted territory for us." Miller leaned forward. "It's uncharted for all of us, Captain. That's rather the point." An older human military officer who had been silent until now spoke up. "Perhaps a compromise? Overall strategic command remains with Captain Voss, but tactical implementation of specific mission elements is delegated to the appropriate commanders, Imperial or human, based on their specialties and the nature of the engagement." Voss considered the suggestion. It was a reasonable approach that preserved Imperial authority while allowing the humans meaningful participation. "That could be acceptable," he acknowledged. "And regarding the Emperor's requirement that Earth formally acknowledge membership in the Imperial sphere of influence?" Vale's expression hardened slightly. "What exactly does that entail in practical terms?" "Earth would be recognized as falling within the Empire's protected territory," Voss explained. "You would not enter into alliances with other interstellar powers without Imperial consultation. Your expansion beyond your home system would be coordinated with Imperial authorities. In return, you would receive Imperial protection from external threats and preferential access to Imperial markets and resources." The humans withdrew again to deliberate. This time, their discussion was briefer. When they returned, Vale spoke for the council. "We will accept these terms conditionally," she announced. "Earth will acknowledge membership in the Imperial Sphere of Influence for an initial period of 50 Earth years, after which the arrangement will be subject to review and potential renegotiation." Voss had not expected such a specific time limitation, but it was not unreasonable. 50 human years was a brief moment by Imperial standards, but long enough to establish the practical benefits of the relationship. "I believe the Emperor will find these terms acceptable," Voss replied. "We have an agreement." And so began one of the most unusual alliances in Imperial history. Over the following weeks, preparations for the joint operation against the Void hegemony proceeded rapidly. Human officers came aboard Imperial vessels to study their systems and share tactical insights. Imperial engineers worked with Earth scientists to integrate their different technological approaches. Dr. Trun led the technical integration efforts, working closely with human weapons specialists to combine Imperial gravitational manipulation technology with Earth's plasma quantum systems. The result was a new type of weapon specifically designed to disrupt the Void hegemony's phase-shifting capabilities. Admiral Miller, despite his initial hostility, proved to be a valuable tactical advisor. His aggressive, unconventional approach to space combat complemented the disciplined Imperial doctrine, creating hybrid strategies that neither civilization would have developed independently. 2 months after the initial agreement, the combined fleet was ready. 5 Imperial heavy cruisers, including the repaired Supremacy, formed the core of the force. Around them gathered 15 smaller Imperial vessels and 20 human ships of various classes, including their new Helios-class destroyers that Admiral Miller had been so eager to test against Imperial defenses. The target was a Void hegemony outpost in the Cygnus sector, a forward base the hegemony had established using their phase technology to bypass Imperial defensive grids. Intelligence suggested the outpost was being used to stage raids on Imperial supply lines and would eventually serve as a launching point for a larger incursion. As the fleet prepared to depart, Voss summoned Admiral Vale and Admiral Miller to the Dominance's strategic command center. The 2 human officers had integrated surprisingly well with the Imperial command structure over the past weeks, earning the respect of many Imperial officers through their insights and capabilities. "Our first joint operation," Voss observed, as they studied the tactical display showing their approach to the hegemony outpost. "A historic moment for both our civilizations." Miller grinned, that now familiar expression of eagerness lighting his features. "The first of many. I hope. The Void hegemony won't know what hit them." Vale's expression remained more measured, but Voss had come to recognize the subtle signs of anticipation in her demeanor. "Our simulations suggest the combined weapon systems will be effective against their phase shields. The question is how they'll adapt once they recognize the threat. That's where your tactical flexibility will be crucial." Voss acknowledged. "Imperial doctrine can be rigid at times. Your approach to combat, adjusting strategies mid-engagement, could prove decisive." The journey to the Cygnus sector took 3 weeks at maximum Imperial FTL speeds. For the human officers, it was their first experience of faster-than-light travel, and Voss noted with amusement their excitement at experiencing something that Imperial citizens took for granted. As they approached the target system, the fleet shifted to battle readiness. The new command structure was put to the test immediately when long-range sensors detected hegemony patrol vessels near the system's outer boundary. Standard Imperial procedure would be to eliminate the patrols before they can alert the main base, Voss explained during the command briefing. Miller shook his head. "Too predictable. The hegemony expects that approach. I suggest we allow 1 patrol to detect us and escape." Several Imperial officers bristled at the suggestion, but Voss prompted Miller to continue. "Explain your reasoning, Admiral." "We want them to prepare for a standard Imperial assault," Miller elaborated. "Let them bring their phase shields to full power, concentrate their defenses at the expected approach vectors. Meanwhile, we'll have a contingent of our smaller vessels make a micro-jump to this position. He indicated a point behind the hegemony outpost, and strike from their rear quadrant with the new combined weapons, while their shields are oriented toward the main fleet. Voss considered the approach. It was unorthodox by Imperial standards, allowing an enemy to prepare rather than striking with maximum surprise. But the logic was sound. Approved, he decided. Admiral Vale, your Helios destroyers will form the flanking force. The main fleet will approach on standard Imperial attack vectors to reinforce their expectations. The plan unfolded with precision. A hegemony patrol detected the approaching Imperial fleet and escaped, just as intended. Long-range sensors showed increased activity at the outpost as they prepared for what they believed would be a conventional Imperial assault. The main fleet approached with deliberate, almost ceremonial formation, exactly what the hegemony would expect from Imperial forces. Meanwhile, Vale's contingent of Earth vessels, accompanied by 3 smaller Imperial ships, executed the micro-jump to position themselves behind the outpost. When the attack began, the hegemony responded exactly as Miller had predicted, bringing their phase shields to full power and orienting them toward the main Imperial formation. They were completely unprepared for the strike from behind, especially when the new combined weapons hit their shields. The effect was immediate and devastating. The quantum gravitational disruption created by the hybrid weapons caused the hegemony's phase shields to collapse in cascading failures. Without their primary defense, the outpost was vulnerable to conventional attacks from the main fleet. Within hours, the battle was over. The hegemony outpost was secured, its commander and senior staff captured, its databases seized intact, a treasure trove of intelligence on void hegemony operations throughout the sector. The victory was more complete than even Voss had anticipated. Imperial casualties were minimal, and while several human vessels had sustained damage, none had been lost. In the aftermath, as Imperial and human forces secured the outpost and prepared for potential counterattacks, Voss found himself on an observation deck with Admirals Vale and Miller, looking out at the combined fleet against the backdrop of stars. A successful first engagement, Voss acknowledged. Your tactical approach proved decisive. Admiral Miller. Miller nodded, unusually subdued after the battle. It worked well, but the hegemony will adapt. They won't fall for the same strategy twice. That's why we keep innovating, Vale added. This was just the beginning of what our civilizations can accomplish together. Voss studied his human counterparts thoughtfully. Over the past months, he had come to respect their capabilities and their perspective on warfare. They approached conflict differently than the Empire, not just as a means to expand territory or secure resources, but as a test of their ingenuity and resolve. It was an attitude that, properly channeled, could indeed be valuable to the Empire. When we return to Imperial space, Voss said, the Emperor will want to formalize our alliance according to the terms we've negotiated. This victory will strengthen the case for cooperation. Vale turned to face him directly. And beyond this initial operation, what does the future hold for Earth and the Empire? Voss considered the question carefully. That will depend on how both sides adapt to this new relationship. The Empire has never had an ally quite like humanity before. Your enthusiasm for warfare, your tactical creativity, these are qualities we've rarely encountered. And qualities you need, Miller pointed out, against enemies like the hegemony and this shard collective you've mentioned. Yes, Voss admitted. Perhaps that's why the Emperor was willing to accept terms he would never have considered for any other world. He sees in humanity not just another subject race, but a potential weapon against threats the Empire has struggled to contain. Vale's expression darkened slightly. We're not weapons to be wielded, Captain. We're partners in this alliance. Voss inclined his head in acknowledgement. Of course, Admiral. I meant no offense. It's simply, a different perspective on warfare than what we're accustomed to in the Empire. And different perspectives are exactly what you need, Miller asserted. Your empire has been dominant for so long. You've become predictable. Enemies like the hegemony have learned to anticipate your tactics. Humanity brings the unexpected, the unpredictable. Looking out at the stars, Voss contemplated the future this unusual alliance might create. A galactic empire with humanity as its martial partner, combining imperial power with human innovation. It was not what he had expected when the Sun Warrior fleet first approached Earth. But perhaps it was something better, for both civilizations. Two unexpected alliances, Voss offered, adopting the human custom of proposing a toast. Vale and Miller nodded in agreement. Two unexpected alliances, they echoed, as the combined fleet prepared for the journey back to Earth and then to Imperial space. Voss drafted his final report to Emperor Maxerth IV. Your Magnificence, I am pleased to report complete success in our joint operation against the Void Hegemony outpost in the Cygnus sector. The combined Imperial Earth forces performed with exceptional efficiency, resulting in the capture of the outpost with minimal casualties and the seizure of valuable intelligence. The tactical approach suggested by the human commanders proved decisive, demonstrating the value of their unique perspective on warfare. The new weapon systems, combining Imperial gravitational technology with human quantum manipulation principles, were highly effective against hegemony phase shields. In accordance with your instructions, I have informed the Earth Defense Council that the Empire is prepared to formalize our alliance under the negotiated terms. They have accepted and are preparing a delegation to accompany us to Imperial space for the formal ceremony. I believe this alliance represents not merely a diplomatic achievement but a strategic one. Humanity's unusual approach to warfare, their enthusiasm for conflict, their tactical creativity, their willingness to embrace the unconventional, complements Imperial strength and discipline in ways that may prove decisive against the threats we face. The Empire has gained not just another world within its sphere, but a partner uniquely suited to the challenges of our time. With proper guidance and integration, humanity may become the Empire's most valuable ally in the struggles to come. For the glory of the Empire, always. As Voss completed his report, he reflected on the strange journey that had brought him to this point. What had begun as a standard conquest mission had transformed into something unprecedented, a genuine alliance between the mighty Galactic Empire and a young, aggressive species that had somehow earned the Empire's respect through their sheer eagerness to fight. The humans had a term for it. He had learned, training war, a conflict undertaken not primarily for territory or resources, but to test and improve one's capabilities, to prepare for greater challenges to come. Perhaps that was what this first contact had been, a training war for both civilizations. The Empire had learned the danger of underestimating a seemingly primitive species. Humanity had learned the reality of a universe filled with powers beyond their current understanding. And both had discovered an unexpected truth. Sometimes, the most valuable ally is the one who first stood against you as a worthy opponent. The Galactic Empire had set its gaze on Earth, expecting easy conquest. Instead, it had found humans eager to fight, and in that eagerness, the seed of an alliance that might reshape the stars themselves.